Mrs. Akina Gumai has served as a development secretary for the Roman Baptist Association Nagaland since 2000. She focuses her work and engages with community, women's empowerment, developing land rights, sustainable agroecology, led innovative and initiative that enhances livelihoods and resilience within tribal communities. So she also has a lot of experiences with her. Next we have Dr. Wainuglu Pong. Dr. Wainuglu Pong is the chairman and founder of the group called Ulam Satchanlok Society Nagaland, and we are happy that he is here with us with lots of experiences behind him. Please come, sir. He is an awardee of the National Biodiversity Award 2018. He has received Governance Award and many others, the European Green Award and the UNEP citations. And so he has a lot of awards and he has a lot of work, basically known for his work for protecting migratory raptors. So we welcome Nuglu, Dr. Nuglu, and the next panelist is Ms. Mongchingla Kumra. She is from the Northeast Network Nagaland. Please come. And she is trained with the grassroots communities and specifically working for the promoting the spring revival, economic security, sustainable land use, and food sovereignty with the grassroots. She trains and imparts skills to the grassroots level as well as we understand the position of Northeast India being politically fragile, the various agrobiodiversity regions, with the communities being involved there. And basically, the communities, they take up the responsibility as safeguards and also being the stewards of the ecology and agrobiodiversity there. We'll have a lot to learn from them. So with that brief note, we will begin with the panelists sharing their experiences. What we will look at focusing is how to integrate traditional systems into modern systems. How can we empower women, and how can we enhance livelihood prospects in Northeast India, supported by various policy mechanisms and so on. And so those will be our key takes that we look forward to in this session. And so what we'll do is we'll have a few rounds of interactions, and then later on hopefully we'll get a good time of interactions too. We have a presentation by Dr. Nuglu, by which we will start with that. As he presents, I would like him to also take his question, and if he can also share something on the Northeast is known for various traditional knowledge systems, more than 200 tribal groups in Northeast India. And so I would like Nuglu to also share with us how can we move from documenting indigenous practices like June to institutionalizing them in agricultural research and extension systems. So keeping that in mind, I hope that your presentation will highlight a lot of things to us.
Good morning. Thank you, sir, for the introduction. To save time, I'll just straight into the slides. I always believe in pictures speaks the truth. So I have a few slides, and some of the slides will be just 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and if you'd like to know more, then maybe after this we can discuss. So giving in my mind in the backdrop, the theme that has been given to us, and also the question that has been raised, I will be very specifically looking into this theme that has been assigned, and also the question that has been asked to me to explain, to elaborate. But I think as I do that, I think a model that we have developed will help us to understand the whole narrative and also the context here. So I begin with this model called IMS. Our society actually is a research base, and so we try to do everything from a research perspective. And when we do a research, we come up with a kind of an acronym, something like this, and develop a concept. So this IMS, I'll try to explain, is based on the challenges that we have and how do we sustain. Looking into June and also how to that sustain, that has been the approach. Now, as I explained, talk about this June and livelihood and traditional learning, we look at some of the challenges. So challenges, we look at two angles. One that comes from above, that is beyond our comprehension. And let me just very hurriedly explain, is the recent Forest Conservation Act is becoming a big issue for the tribals, especially in the context of Northeast. The second one is in the context of Nagaland, the community reserve, which some of you may not be very much aware of, but maybe we can talk about that. And the government and many sectors now are introducing many new alien crops with different species, which is actually not native, so we call it alien. So these are some of the challenges. There are many, but looking at this, three components, there are many others. The challenges that we are looking from below again is, okay, for most of you, like climate change, global warming will be that, the heat wave, cold wave, flood, and all this. In our context, is the invasion by new alien pests and insects. For example, one single example is the extinction of groundwater table, ancestral ponds getting dried. So these are some of the challenges. So we look at this June, and now what happens is in our context, June, the forest is over pressure. Biodiversity has so much of pressure. So how does it sustain? So looking at this with continuous interaction, we develop this sustainable land use model called ISLORA. So what we normally do is we work on the acronym and we develop a concept. So ISLORA, I will try to explain. ISLORA is innovative, integrated, scientific, sustainable livelihoods of rural areas. So then we have a shorter form also, but since I don't have the time, I have to rush. So based on ISLORA, I'm just trying to present before you a small model, which I won't say it's successful, but it's very progressive. So it touches June, tradition, culture, education, and long-term, sustainable livelihoods. Now, I'm talking about just one particular model that we adopted. This is a village where we started working in 2006-7. This was a village. Okay, so just keep that in the background of your mind as I present. So, many may not agree, but while June, we cannot do away with June. We cannot survive without June. June is the only sustainability. So I think all of you will agree with that. But June cannot sustain us. That's what we have found out in our, case studies, and we cannot do away June, but it does not really sustain. And I want to tell you that I do two June field every year. One is the old June and the one is the new one. So what we did was, based on this, the IMS model is identifying resources, managing resources, and sustaining the community. So I for identifying, and for management, S for sustaining. Don't get me wrong, this was based on, Jesus teaching, feeding 5,000 out of 5 loaves and 2 bread. He broke them into pieces, and people were 5,000. The Bible says, but it was more than 12,000 who were fed. So we borrowed that concept idea and developed this IMS model. Now I'll try to go very fast. So in this, we develop a model with immediate income generation. Midterm immediate will be within 4 to 6 months. Midterm will be around 8 to 12 months, and long term. So I'll just try to explain. So immediate is more of this cash crop production within 4 to 6 months. We started working with the community members, and one thing, we were not working with individuals. We bring the entire community together and working. So what normally the government and other funders will do is they go to the individual. So we are looking at one village where there are around 200 families. So if there is a project, it goes to 10-15 families. The rest are neglected. So what we do is we bring all the community members together and work together. So we started working with women. So you are talking also about women empowerment. So this is like, immediate, within 3-4 months, they get a lot of income. We were looking at the midterm now. So 8 to 14 months, we look at non-farm activities. We have the piggery, we have the fishery, ginger production, These are the kinds of, livelihood they started generating within these 8 to 12 months. Long term is more of an orchard. I wish I could have brought some orange, but it was a little far to bring. But you remember, this was a kind of scientific research we did, and within 4 months, orange started fruiting. Okay, this is the kind of fruiting started in 4 months. Then in the long term, we also had this our own community-based nursery. We did not bring any alien seeds from outside. This was native grown, and we had identified around 80 to 90. But again, we focus more on this native species. So that again started generating income for the community. So what we do is, what we normally do is in the traditional June method, it's the individual family. So look at this small huts. In that around 100 hectares, there will be around 50, 60 families working. We are working in isolation. So what we did was, in fact, Sir Nizo had visited one of our group, this model. So what we did was, we brought all the community to work together in some around 100 hectares. So this was one of the models that we started. I know some of you are trying to take pictures. I'll try to share because I'm concerned about the time also. So what we did was, the community coming together, working together, and we made a policy that any outcome will be shared within the community. So then with this, like this women, children, young people, men, everybody coming and working together, the entire village working together. So now in our model of this new June method, it's not individual, it's not just integration of the crops. We started integrating communities, so the entire community working together. Now in that, we never allow a pickup truck to carry the rice also, products. So everybody will carry on their own head. Now when we talk about this traditional learning center, when they go carrying those products, they sing that song. They talk about those stories and folklores. So while working. So under June, we developed these BNR objectives. BNR objectives is, again, we work on this module called acronym, Preserve, Revive, Retain June. So June has to be revived, it has to be retained, preserve, revive, tradition again. Culture, values and practices, and revive seeds again. So under this one module that we created, I'm just talking about one module, we have around 86 different seeds preserved. So it's a seed hub again. And then revive community working together. I'm very close now. So sustainable objective was to create community bank. And this is something I think in 2008 we started this community bank. So when community do not have money to come and do the repayment, we ask for something like this timber, they can bring chicken, they can bring pumpkin, they can bring firewood. We convert that into money and then the recovery is done. So today, I will not tell you the quantum of the amount, but it's around a little more than 3 CRs. It started in 2008, but then now the community themselves have a bank. They don't have to go to the nationalized bank because farmers normally don't get loans in the rural sector. So that's kind of a community bank that we started. We started our own community hospital. In fact, during the COVID time, some 2,800 patients were treated there. So that's the kind of community-run hospital we created. Now, coming back, and as I close with the traditional, how do we connect? So this is the kind of Alicho Academia we started. This is where traditionally customs, everything was instilled. So this is somehow depleting, it's getting extinct. So we try to bring the elders, like 80 years, 90 years old, talk to them, to the younger generation about the culture, tradition, and all this. And this, again, we connected with the institutions. So we have in Nagaland, we have connected with around 6-7 universities. Remember yesterday that Minnesota professor died, we have a partnership with the Minnesota University. So how do we connect traditional learning center, formal education system, but at the same time, culture tradition is preserved. So these elders are the lecturers, they are the professors here doing this. And this we have spread over around 36. This has been one of the research for the government of Nagaland and even for other institutions. I'm going to close now. Then with this community bank, we started building our own bridge because there were no bridge. And government will take a long time to build a bridge. So this is the kind of innovative bridge we have built. Just skip this. This is the kind of meeting wall that we built. So as I close, the whole concern here is every year, some 400 hectares of forests are being cut just for June purpose. Now in that community mode, what we are doing is we will cut only 100 to 50. Since we get a lot of PDS and we have a terrace farm, which is a long term, we say, why don't we reduce from 400 to just 150 to 200, so that by 10 years, we will we will save around 2,000 hectares of forest. And our strategy is to slowly create a landscape corridor. So, sorry sir, close. So under Islora, this is the kind of model we are looking at. Under Islora, we have the agroforestry, we have the veterinary animal husbandry, we have the fishery, we have the poultry, piggery. Then also we have this dairy farm, that orchard created. So another Islora site. So this is how the whole newer method of sustainability is being created. So under this, the June we reduce from cutting down the forest, that will later be converted into a larger biodiversity landscape corridors. And thankfully, we are also looking at now trans-border biodiversity corridors managed by indigenous communities under the whole concept called Missio Ecology. So with this process, this was 2006 and 7, and today the community, through their own initiative, in 2021, we can look at this. There are only one building, that's the church, and today we have this in that village. So that's the kind of a model. I don't use the word successful, but it's very progressive, and we are trying to expand that to our other corridor sites. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Request the panelists please come again so that we continue on. Thank you, Dr. Guru, for the presentation and also the initiatives that you and your team have taken to uplift the livelihood of the people in Nagaland. And I would like to also request Hina to, as a person who has worked with, I think we're not, okay, so yeah, this is Hina who has been working with the community, basically empowering women a long time, trying to work with equity, gender equality, and sustainable development. I would like to ask you to share something on the question that is put forward. Can traditional institutions evolve into platforms for gender inclusive land reforms while also preserving traditional legitimacy? Through your experiences, can you share?
Thank you, our moderator, my other esteemed co-presenters, and also all colleagues. Actually, to be recognized as a indigenous community is so important. And if we look at the history, we see that very recently, many of the countries have been recognizing the existence of the indigenous people. And in India, again, when we come into it, Article 371A and all these sections, everything, in a way, like, they say it's political, but it does recognize the indigenous people, saying that they have particular rights. And on the other hand, again, these rights actually bind us again, for me, when I really think about the experiences that we're talking about, us again, to our own traditional and customary law again, especially when we think about from the women perspective. And again, so when we look into our traditional and cultural, customary law and the practices that we are doing, it is a kind of a hand of management, but the actual the rooted cause is that the patriarchal system. It is a system which is actually having a kind of a barrier for any kind of, for women to go forward. And so I believe that until and unless we really have an understanding of this patriarchal system so deeply embedded in our society, to think about tenure system or any land ownership for women to go forward, I think it's little difficult. Example, I'm just saying it, I'm a widow, but I still have my name, my husband's name with me, one line. That's because I'm in a patriarchal society. It means to say if I change my name to Kamai, that is my middle name, it means to say that I've gone back to my London family and then I have given up my children or my whatever the possession that I have of my husband's family. So, okay. So here I'll just go very quickly. So now the question is, how can we address this deeply rooted patriarchal system? That is what I really want to put forward. And another thing is that in Netherlands, the Netherlands State Commission of Women, NSCW, they have been working on voting, studying, and then documenting this customary law of different tribes for quite some time already, and I'm sure some of our panelists here already helped me in that also. And but now, and this quotation and studying and documentation is so that they will have some space for women in our customary law. But now what happened is that it is happening up there, but nothing is actually implemented in the villages. Because every village, every society have their own rules and regulations and their own customary law, and that happens in their own village only. So even the land ownership or system of land ownership, system of land use, everything depends on the particular, even among the tribe also, every village will have their own system again. So it is so difficult, even if someone is coding and doing up here, nobody is making use of that actually. So now, here my challenge and is like, how do we go forward? It is so difficult. But in a very small way, we have done certain things like land mapping, getting the consent from the village authority and the people and the residents of the other citizens of the community, and taking a map where we try to put the name of both men and women, both husband and wife. At least some kind of security or some kind of evidence that, even women are owning that land. So this is something that we have started in a very small way. However, when we really talk about land ownership for women, until and unless we really redefine our patriarchal system, in what way, I don't know, we cannot move forward. And until and unless we redefine this in the framework of human rights and our fundamental right, I think we cannot move forward. So I will just end with this. And in terms of other kind of land ownership and accessibility to some kind of relief and all that, it cannot happen in a place like London. It cannot happen even for men actually. Only in Dimapur the land is Mata land. So the rest of the other land you cannot go for any accessibility. Actually in place like London. Or even other hill sections of other states in Northeast. So I think that part is so clear for everyone, and I'd just like to end from here. If there's anything
Okay, thank you so much. So with that we will come to Ms. Ong with all our experiences of training and skilling the tribal people and also the women folk. Question to you, how can the smallholder collectives in landscapes be repositioned as value chain actors rather than just users at the clients?
So when we think about our farmers and when we think about our farms, we also see a layer of barrier. Yesterday in the evening, one of the panelists has spoken that yesterday evening one of the panelists spoke about the mountainous hilly region where the farmers have small patches of land which we cannot compare with the mainland India. So that is our reality. We practice subsistence farming. So when somebody asks tomorrow, to supply 100 kilos of ginger or maybe beans from the village in Nagaland, it will be so difficult because we do not have those kind of producers. We do not have the capacity to supply 100 kilos, 200 kilos of ginger or 200 kilos of beans. That's the reality we have. We go for subsistence farming, we target for our own consumption, and the surplus is quite less. That also reduces the bargaining power of our farmers. And the second barrier that we see is also the market, the gap from our farm to the market. There are so many intermediaries in between. If a farmer wants to sell her produces, she has to search for somebody in the village, a vendor in the village to give it as a wholesale. That person takes it to the town, and that person in the town takes back to the city, like Dimapur, and also the disbursement. If we see the whole chain, we can see like 3-4 vendors in between. So that also, decreases the money that the farmers get. Like the prices from the farm to the market is quite a difference. And another is also, the high market standard that the market has already set, organic certification. So this is practically impossible for our farmers. How can we expect our farmers who are doing true cultivation, who are changing the cycle every year, to get certification themselves, where the certification agency has to come every year and monitor, and also constantly give reports. It is also practically a technical challenge for our farmers. So these are the 3 barriers that we also see. So these 3 barriers also decreases the bargaining power of our farmers. And one way which we can also look forward is also how to increase. Like if we also think of how to increase the bargaining power of our farmers, since one way is also to collectivize. Since it is practically not possible for us to go for large-scale farming, which is also going to disrupt a lot of our ecologies and our food system and our farming system. One way to go forward is also to collectivize what we have. So, example can be collectivization through NPOs, collectivization through women's farmers group. It can also be collectivization of other products. Like one of the successful, I would say, a progressive model that we also see in Nagaland is also the women, the self-employed organizations, the SEWA. They have around 3,500 women in the association, where they have collectivized their products and they sell it through one outlet. So all these women, whatever they are producing, supplies in one particular shop, and the product is distributed all over that way. So it also gives some power to the women, some bargaining power. And another is also another one model is also the textile, that the cotton products weaves that Dizami weaves is doing. So they have this Dizami weaves has more than 700 women who weaves annually. Earlier they were working individually, and the product was also not consistent. Since they were working individually, they have to search for the market individually, and they also have to contact people individually. But since 2008, they have collectivized it, and now they are able to do consistent production all throughout the year. So that way, like the supply chain becomes much more easier. They have direct connection from whatever they are producing and directly to the market without any intermediaries in between. So collectivization is one way we can go forward, and also strengthening the groups, the smaller groups that have come out is also another way. Strengthening our farmers on ground, and also building our own narratives. Like our target should not be defined by other external agencies who do not know anything about what we are doing, but it should be our own narratives, our own stories. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have that situation in the Northeast, basically, and with Nagaland as the context here, with its specific social strata, and also with barriers that have been mentioned for the small farmers in the state. However, we do have a lot of innovations and models that has come up to how to sustain the livelihood. I would like to come to Mr. Amba as a policymaker. In states like this where both customary as well as the formal systems coexist, how can the policies move from just mere distribution towards mechanisms that secure tenure, enable credit, and also strengthen community-based governance? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, good morning. I think this is a very precious audience we have. It's like the last of the traditional seats that we have in our communities. So thank you all for being here. I think it's a very interesting question because if you come back to India's northeast, the region is very diverse. We have a whole plethora of communities. Each of these communities and states have their own systems of rights and recognitions and constitutional guarantees provided by the Government of India through the Indian Constitution, through the 6th Schedule, and so on and so forth. And so on paper it looks fantastic. The challenge is how have the states converted these rights and guarantees into actionable legislations that get secure what communities are doing. For example, the Article 371A says all land and its resources belong to the people of Nagaland. Great. But the state government has not taken an extra step to have a resource management, traditional resource management act or rules that legalizes what the constitution is saying. So constitution is there, but there is no legal provision at the state level. And I think that is something which really needs to be looked at, because we're looking at recognizing customary land tenure, but it is not being operationalized. And this is a role of the states to ensure that it is operationalized. So we are in a state of romantic sense where we are in the status quo, where we feel that we are protected, and yet we aren't if you look at it. So that is number one. The other thing is the issue of customary titles again. From an indigenous person's perspective, why do we want to commodify land and make it into titles? That is the largest question that we have. For me, in my own village, the house, the plot where my grandfather's house and my father's house was, today it's my house because I'm the eldest, and as she said, the patriarchal thing tends to flow through. So it's my house, my property, but it's only mine so long as I'm alive. After I'm gone, it goes back to the kinship group. It goes back to the clan. So I cannot claim it as the individual land, which means I have every right to use it, access it, but I have no right to commodify and sell it or transfer it to anybody. So the legal system somehow does not recognize this. The legal system has not standardized to operationalize these issues. So that is another thing that we really need to look at. The third thing is traditional village institutions across the Northeast have been given the power to give certifications and NOCs for land and titles. But those are just administrative powers. Those are not legal powers. Because now when I go to the bank and I say I want a loan and I want to mortgage whatever land I have, and the village authority has given me the certificate, the bank says, oh, we don't recognize that because that is not a revenue certification. That is not a revenue land. So I think this is another challenge where we really have to look in terms of how do we make it operational. I think at the end of the day, it's about creating confidence, it's about traceability, and also about negotiability within the institutional mechanisms that exist in indigenous people societies across different states. It's not for the government to underwrite or override these laws and systems. It is for the government to ensure that these systems become operational with legal support. And that, unfortunately, the constitutional guarantees alone do not provide that.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry, a little bit of legal part of it, but, and by the way, I'm not a policy maker. Those are those IAS and whatnot people.
Anyway, yeah, thank you. I know you're involved in the formulation of all those policies, and thank you for those things that you have shared. I think which is so important for us. We'll quickly move on again. And so I'll come back to the blue and then it also share. As the society, as we say, is a tribal society, but we also look at the migration of young people from the villages to the towns and cities. So your own experiences and your involvement with the community, what mechanisms can be adopted to enable intergenerational transmission of indigenous marketing systems or knowledge.
Thank you. I think I took a lot of time in this presentation. Very brief and point. I think the COVID was a turning point for people to come back. 2000, I was speaking in the context of Nagaland. 2006 and 7, I was very young, but Nagaland government were vision document 2030. And that was the time when they talked about the smart city, the footing road, and all the IT and AI technology-based development. So with that, people were too passionate, and then they started going to the urban city. So the word urbanization was popularly used. And in this context, I was given a time, I was really young, but I said, you talk about urbanization, but in another 15, 20 years, you will talk about ruralization. Because the life in the city, smart city, will be very costly. So now, besides investment in the urban setting, I actually propose that 4 investments has to be done. One on agriculture, school, education, health, and road. At least give us this 4 basic foundation. Then we will try to generate more of this organic production. Of course, ma'am was saying something about, we cannot produce as per the demand of the market. But when you look at the value addition, instead of selling 10 tons of ginger, at least 1 ton, which is an organic, when you do the value addition, has a lot of income for. Anyway, let me not talk about it. So with this, maybe the government was not able to really conceive what we saw. After the COVID, people started coming back. And during the COVID, we have already started this model which I just read. So I told the young people who are, especially the ladies who are in the cities, you start cutting down your nails, remove your nail polish, and start chipping stones. Let's start now using the spade and all this. And the kind of model we started in different villages, we relocated them. And most of these young people have decided not to go back. And we are now working with some around 2,800 young people spread over around 25 villages. So I think if we, of course the word model is not very relevant today, but in our context, I think if we can create that kind of a model and instill in them, the young people, I think, back to ruralization is happening, and so I think there is a lot of potentiality that I see as we work with the young people. So I think urbanization is also there, but I think people are going back to the rural setting.
Right. And most of the when they are providing livelihood sustenance to them, they have the options to, and with your education system of academia, I think that's one way of transmitting traditional knowledge and systems to the young people. I just also would like to put it forward again. Of course, you have mentioned about the challenges of securing tenure basically for women, and also whether it's through security, difficulty in attaining credit access and finances and all like that. What is your experience so far? Whether there are alternatives to that, and how do you go about navigating all these challenges?
Yeah, I'll just go back to tradition again. Actually, again, traditionally, we are patriarchal society, as I was saying. But unfortunately, patriarchal system is misused and brought into a new tradition actually. And because of that, land has become a commodity and exchange for financial gain has been going on in and around Rockis because of land compensation, the land of land compensation and things like that. in terms of the patriarchal system and making it a new tradition actually. But here I want to say that if we really look back into our own tradition, the actual tradition, land accessibility is for all. Nobody owns the land. Just like Amba has said, like he can own the land until he's alive and using it, and he can go on pass on the line. That was going on. So just like Lukman is just saying, maybe we should go back to that tradition again, where nobody is owning any land. We're just guardian, either you're male or female. It's just that we are a patriarchal society, that's why the name is coming to the male and it's going to the male line actually. Otherwise, even the male actually doesn't really have the right to sell or anything. Everybody is just a custodian actually. So I wish we go back to that tradition again. And number two, I want to say here is that in a state like Nagaland, I'll just take the side of Nagaland. Nowhere in Nagaland, except for the Dimapur land, we can go for building accessibility. Any bank cannot do other than other projects, they cannot do with land mortgage in Nagaland. Because of that, they cannot go in any other except in Dimapur for land mortgage. So that way, even male also, female also cannot go for actually land legal accessibility in Nagaland. Is that like Nagaland?
Please use the microphone.
Oh. Okay, sorry. I think it's okay, huh? What I already said, okay. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that
When you see land
in Nagaland, access for land credit system is not there in and around other places in Nagaland except in Dimapur, where Pata land is there. So it is for male also, female also. But just that, because of patriarchal system, they are making a new norm of tradition where male will compensation for land and exchange of money. That is what is going on. Otherwise, actually, it is not. So what I'm trying to say, maybe we should go back to the traditional, actual traditional, and the customary law where everybody is just a custodian. So that is just what I want to say. And I just wish that, this redefining of patriarchal system can begin from every villages. Every villages, it should be their own definition. And I'm sure that we will do it. And state like Nagaland, there are very few actually. District like Peren, we have only 150 villages. We can quickly actually access, aggressively if we go and do some kind of awareness or that kind of thing, we can finish it in 3 years actually. So I'm sure in the whole Nagaland, by 3 years we can do something. Optimistic, but I think.
That's very good. I think we should be optimistic. Things need to change and come back to normal again, using traditional and customary laws and practices. There's one thing you mentioned about the difficulty of market and value change, like so on, market change. With all those challenges and problems that you face, could you or have you envisioned something like a circular bioeconomy with the communities? Share something.
Yeah, going back to the earlier statement when I say that collectivization is the way forward. Since it is challenging in our systems to do it individually, to produce it in bulk, collectivization of produces from farmers is the way forward. That way it is possible to produce in tons. It is possible to produce in bulks. Otherwise, we cannot do it individually with our system, with the structure that we have. That is what I meant to say. And yeah, when we also, yes, about circular economy, I would also like to answer this with one of the case study that we can see in Manipur. There is a village where the lemon production has been the GI tag. This village has around 500 households, and they are growing around 200 to, each household is growing 200 to 300 lemon trees at an average. So this is Kachai. We are talking about Kachai. So the good system that I see in this village is that, at every level, there is a value addition of products going on. So in this value addition, they sell lemon during the lemon season, and they also sell in juice. So all the juice, whatever they are extracted, is further, added value in the sense that juice are produced, seeds beans are extracted and peels are made into candies and some, dried products like pickles and, some value addition products. So there's a whole value chain of value addition going on in these systems. And what I find is quite successful in this model is that they are not working alone. So different stakeholders comes in, where the government also takes part, the department also comes in, the NGOs also comes in, the village authority also steps in, the village development committee also steps in, and the area organizations also step in. So it is not, and also most importantly, the farmers. So it is a collaborative kind of partnership, which is making this model quite successful. So yeah, it is quite possible to have a system like this where at every level there is a value addition and where nothing is wasted in producing a product. So optimization of our agricultural product can be also done. So there are also other models which is coming up like the big breeding center in Manipur and also in Nagaland, where they are selling it for meat and also they're selling it for selling piglets and also the waste are also composted. They are also doing a production system where there is an income generation process at every level. So this kind of things is also quite possible, and to do this, it is also not, we cannot. It is also quite challenging to do by one stakeholder. If there is a convergence of different stakeholders coming in and promoting this, I think it will progress very well, and yeah, it can be quite a success.
I think it's good to know and see that the convergence of various stakeholders like that come together, create that economy for livelihood communities. Yeah, so again, we move on to Amma. Question I would like to ask you is how can institutional innovations, both traditional as well as modern, bridge smallholder producers in terms of the women's cooperatives and also markets while ensuring people benefits?
So I'll try to be as brief as possible because I'd rather have a lot of questions from the other side of the floor also. So I think when we talk of institutional innovations, especially in regions like the Northeast, unfortunately, the innovations that has been brought to us or recommended for us have been based on technology. It has been based on markets. It has been based on frameworks that are different from ours. I think that is wrong. We cannot just keep on doing what others have been telling us. We need to integrate what we have. Innovations in institutions that are designed and rooted in local cultures, and that is happening already. We have the Putu method system amongst our, for example, which has a very interesting way of looking at things. You have the Varshnongs in Meghalaya, you have you have the Kebangs in Arunachal Pradesh. Now these are institutions that are adapting as things go along, and they have been adapting. So number one, why do we have to think that we have to innovate to be aligned to what the industrial relations are thinking or how the market is going? I think our institutions are good enough. What we can, however, do is we need to hybridize the traditional institutions, build capacities in such a way so that community enterprises, what I have been talking about, become a part of the traditional institutional mechanism. Unfortunately, because at this point in time, the traditional institutional mechanisms are basically administrative, resource management, and security agencies at a community level. But they have not gone into the business of business, or they've not gone into facilitating marketing and whatnot. So I think that is something where a hybrid mechanism can come in. With regards to SSGs and other things, I think a lot of this, there are already, again, every Naga village has the women collectives. And these women collectives are very, very efficient in making local level policies. Not just about, they may say that women are not at the traditional institution, but the policies made by the women are so effective that actually the prohibition in Nagaland happened because rich women collectives decided that men are drinking too much, the state needs to go dry. And it happens. You know, and they push the church, they push the state. So the power of women, the Naga women, it's really, really amazing. They are not just custodians of knowledge systems, but they are the pushers and movers of what happens in the community. And I think that is something which we really, really have to look at. Their ability is not only in terms of value addition for, see a lot of trainings and capacity building and skilling they do for pickling and juice making. But those are again, if you're talking of exotic native species and exotic species, we have a lot of our own indigenous ways of fermenting technology. We have a ways of making rice wine. We have a ways of dehydrating vegetables and fruits and so many other things, which is not in the open market, but can become niche products in the open market. And I think we need to also focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've got from our panelists, I would like to throw open questions. Take a few questions. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting to hear, and I really appreciate your dedication and effort. At the same time, it sounds a bit nostalgic, It sounds like, traditional land rights, community-based, all that. While at the same time, you described that there are already people taking benefit of the land. So there are already people integrated in this capitalist system. And so collectivization, we know it from Russia, we know it from China, and we know that at some stage they abolished it. So maybe we should look for a dual system where we, in a transitionary period, cultivate some of these community initiatives, but eventually it's very difficult to escape the market. It's much better to think of the market as a very diversified market where there's also space for organic ginger from your villages at a much higher price. And I think that should be the long-term perspective, because we don't manage to isolate Nagaland from the rest of India and the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question to Mr. Mutlu. Two things. One is the 150 to 200 hectares zoom area. What is the kind of zoom cycle you have after how many years it will be back to the same place? That's one. And second question is, who introduced the alien species in the biospheres? These are the two things.
My name is Pastor Silva. I work at Center for University for Research and Development. Congratulations all the panelists for your excellent presentation. I also learned a lot from you. One of my queries, hearing all your mid-ground practices, how your practical learnings is introduced in the curriculum, in the schools, the universities. Because sometimes, really, the elders, the activists, the researchers working in one way, but on the other hand, our children, our young generations are learning the same models that look down your real practices, and I believe that's how we were brought up, and that's how we were sensitized later on. That opening our eyes, wow, we missed out our path, So I just curious, how are you thinking, or if you have any practices that not just only the elders of the community that go to the field and continue your practices, but also the young children bring these practices in the classroom and also make them, bridging them. That part I'm just curious. Then another part I'm also curious that I think we should not be much worried that to make the industrialized notion, we should be really, we now start thinking about the residents, community residents, women residents, youth residents. Unless and until your foot is so strong on your own ground, stepping another one is, always challenging or risk. So once you are very strong enough to feed yourself, to live with the respect and dignity in your own landscape, and the next moment will just come up, And for that one, with the self-determination of your choice, whether you want to enter or not, should be good to the village. And what you are doing is excellent. I think we can learn, and then the lessons what we are doing already opened up the new area of innovation and intervention. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. We will take it up openly to the panelists here. The first is something to do with the market and challenges and the need to be not be isolated. The second one is to the movement of is to do with the tourism that have been included, particularly in the food cycle that is well. So I think we can go first.
Can I answer about how we're integrating?
Yes.
Yeah, about how we are integrating the real life experience into the practice. That part I would like to answer. There is one program which my organization Northeast Network is doing. So we have been doing this non-farm school starting from 2016. So it's almost like 10 years now. So here we also see a disconnect with the young people. So when we see the older generation and younger generation, there's a lot of disconnect happening with our food and farming system. So this was what drive us to start this program. So we started, and every year we started integrating this as a 5 days training program where we reach out to the students, urban students. And we have a 5 days training where we also, pass on the indigenous knowledge and food and farming system through practical experiences by taking them to the field, by explaining about the dune system, about the food system, about the water, about seeds, and about soil. So we integrate all of this in the 5 days course. And we also take them to the community elders to listen to the stories of seeds, to listen to the stories of water, to listen to the stories of many indigenous knowledge that they have. So this is the annual training that we have opened up with the students, and we have also recently expanded and take it to other districts because we felt that our outreach is quite limited. So we also are doing it in collaboration with Consent General, with RBA, and with like-minded organizations that are in Netherlands. And we are taking this forward to other districts also. So that is one thing which I feel that we can relate to this.
Okay, with that experience, with the NFS experience, we are also going ahead again with schools again, where we are hoping that we can start a small seed banks in all the schools, and we are also trying to target a traditional college because traditional seminaries are where leaders are produced and they are sent back to the villages. So we are trying to target the OTS, that is one traditional college in Dimapur. So to start something like this with seed bank and all that kind of thing, connecting with Eco Asia. So that also we are trying to do toward that. So thank you so much for mentioning that one. And I hope that beyond that we would like to include the other traditional customary law and knowledge and all those things to be trying to do that one. And another thing regarding the community resilience. See, we are doing something called ABCD, Asset-Based Community Development Approach, where we are looking at a half field cup. So the half hilltop is what is already existing in the villages. So here we try to discover again the customary or whatever tradition that is good, the knowledge, skills, everything, and we try to strengthen the village people again. How you been resilient from all these years that are coming by. So with that, we are trying to work from there, from below up we are working. So that approach, since we're working in some villages, and we hope that that can expand in other villages also. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, sir, for that question. What we do normally is a research test. So one of the findings, I won't still use the word successful, it's very aggressive. It's a research stage. So what we found out was, normally earlier our June cycle was 20 years in my village. 17 years. Slowly it came down to 9 years now. Then when we set aside this model, remember the Amur falcons, the migratory bird was introduced. After the bird came, actually that June has to be actually cultivated. Now it's 15 years, we have not touched that forest. So with this model, we believe in another 10-15 years, if it's very progressively executed, we are looking at 17 to 20 years of June cycle. So, I mean, this is research, so that is how we do that. We introduce the alien-based, what the government, people will not mind, but it's always the government, because they look at culture. So they introduced rubber, which was not very sustainable. They started Kamari, I forgot the scientific name, it did not work. Then they introduced teak. Later they introduced this large cardamom. In fact, large cardamom for us is alien, which was not compatible with our crops. It was not even climate adaptable. It was not soil conducive. So a lot of this are being introduced by the government, some departments, because they want to look at large quantum of production. But at the same time, we cannot always blame the government also, but it's also the individuals who are interested for getting more quantum of money. That's how they get. The question that was raised on how do we connect with the traditional and institutions. In our Alicho Academia, where we started, this has become a research model where now we have partnership with the institutions. So when these intern students, for example, like Wildlife Institute, where we have the partnership, Nagaland University, there are other few colleges, like even also IIT, when the intern student comes, we make it a point that they attend this Alicho Academy. It happens only in the evening. So like Monday through Thursday is more of a formal education system where maths, science, English is being taught by our mentors. Because, for example, like a child may be studying in a town and is going to appear class 10 exam. Another child may be in the village. The question paper is almost the same. So we want to take this formal education to the village at the doorsteps through our mentors. So Monday through Thursday, we are teaching them math, science, English. But Friday, Saturday is more of that tradition, culture, values, handicraft. So our children would tell us, look, even if I don't pass class 10, and even if my parents cannot afford to send us to college, we are sustainable through our handicraft education. So that's how we try to do it. Now, because with this story, we have now started a digitalized learning center. So, sir can talk from wherever Delhi, whatever, through our digitalized system that we have started. We have a projector, we have a Wi-Fi connected in all these classrooms, so that you can talk from Delhi, you can talk from UK, you can talk from US, and these students in our learning center in 32 centers will attend your lecture. So that's the kind of digitalized system.
Thank you so much. And with that,
I think the query that the gentleman had about romanticizing this whole notion of communities. I think it's true. We cannot romanticize it. Everything about tradition is not necessarily the best. But the reality also is this generation has started realizing that the rootedness of the community has been uprooted in many ways. And in our pursuit for new modern livelihood mechanisms, new ways of living, new ways of adjusting, we have become like a big tree. In the pursuit of new knowledge, we become like a big tall tree with a large crown. And very narrow routes. And I think that is dangerous. And this generation is ready now trying to look back into the knowledge system that existed, into the institutional mechanisms that existed, and therefore we need to be a little forgiving if our generation is a little romanticizing it, but we're not romanticizing it with the justification that everything then was good and what's happening now is bad, not good. So that is something that we need to be very clear about. Regarding this whole issue of cycle, the shifting cultivation cycle, it depends on community to community. Generally across Nagaland and across the world actually, the younger generation is not getting into farming anymore. They're not interested in farming. So the pressure on land through shifting cultivation is reducing, although some academicians like to link population growth with pressure on land, but there is no evidence of that, at least in the upland farming systems in the northeast. And therefore the farm sizes have reduced because the number of hands in the farming are lesser. And because of that, the cycles have increased. For example, in my village, we can afford not to go back to a particular plot for the next 35 years. That is possible now. But the danger again is many of the fallow areas are being targeted by so-called developmental projects supported by the government and by externally aided programs and projects. So that's another challenge.
Thank you, the panelists, and also for participating in the question. Madam, I think the incorporation of the traditional knowledge systems into formal education systems is happening now. The school, colleges, universities have courses that have ITK as one of the core papers in their curriculum. So things are happening, things are changing. Looks positive now. Trying to incorporate all the traditional systems, knowledge farming, and whatever knowledge systems are there. So with that, I think we will wind up with this session. We're at the right time. Thank you so much. What we learned, a lot of the social struggles, the uniqueness of the people in the Northeast, particularly Nagaland, a lot of challenges that are being faced, but doesn't deter the people, but to innovate more systems so that we can also do our best in contributing not only to our people, but to the people across the world. So with that, we will close. Thank you so much, and a big hand for Senna.